Hey people, this is Jerry Clower back in the 70s. He's at the Mendenhall Round Table Restaurant. That's just southwest of Jackson, Mississippi. And he specialized in redneck and coon-ass jokes. I remember back in the 70s, my father brought the family here one time. And I remember this fried chicken sitting in front of me. And this is truly a Mississippi style buffet where you don't have to get up. It seems like there's a little motor on the table that keeps it turning slowly. You see something you want, you just reach up there and stop the table and get you some. So this is Susan on the table. Susan gets around. A lazy Susan. And they say it comes from a Hebrew word. And people that don't know how to read Hebrew will read it as a Shoshana. And it means the lotus flower. It's a Egyptian lily. It means lily. But you can see the Hebrew spelling here. It's just a S-U-S-N-E. It's a Susan. They add all these syllables in there just to try to make Hebrew difficult. But in biblical times, Susan referred to a lily. And that's where the word Lilith comes from. Lily gets around. You know, Lilith was this first wife of Adam. Eve is something they just made up for King James because it says Zoe in the Greek and it says it in the Hebrew. You know, it is what your new wife calls your ex-wife. But it says, that she was the demon that had been banished from the Garden of Eden for disobeying Adam. And people that don't know how to read Hebrew will say that Lilith does not appear in the Hebrew Bible. And these would be the same people that read Susan as Shoshana. But what was really banished was nudity. He caught them, he scolded them, and he made them clothes and kicked them out. She was the ancient porn star of the Turin exotic papyrus 3,000 years ago. And it was fairly shredded. They could see some of it, and they put a lot of it together with pieces. And they're not going to show it here because it's porn. But part of it shows a bunch of animals acting like humans. And then 2/3 of it shows humans acting like animals. And a piece of the writings they found in the margins, they interpret it as, "Come behind me with your love. O son, you have found my heart," is agreeable work. It's showing the 12 sexual positions of the sun. And they say this is what it looked like when they pieced it back together. And this is sun, and the sun is Lot. It says somewhere in here. And he's got a lot. And this is Lily. This is Susan. And she gets around. And then you have 1/3 of it with animals doing human things. They say the lily symbolizes purity, devotion, love, and rebirth. Celebrations for new life, and weddings, something new, and funerals, symbolizing transition, hope. Symbolizes new beginnings and the journey of life after life. In Hebrew, they say on the first page that Lily is the lesser light to rule the night. They say in ancient Greek it shares the word for judge, judgment, crying on. Everything starts with the cry, has to do with the judge and judgment. They say it has a couple different drugs in it and may have been used as an aphrodisiac. Also used today to treat erectile dysfunction. So I'm telling you that because this is going to be part 3, which is actually the 4th movie. We got a part 1, a 2A, and B. In this Stoning the Scorpion. And I'm showing you why the eagle replaces a scorpion in the Revelations 4 Zodiac. But this should be fairly easy to get. And if you're liking it, you probably want to go back and read these. I'll leave the link right up here to this all-in-one folder. These 4 movies. It's a short chapter and it looked like this. It talked about the legend and then it had the ancient red writings here and a couple lines and then it went down to the comer as win us to allegiance and it told the allegiance here. And I'm going to read you this 9, 10, 11 now, where it comes down to the throne of allegiance. And then it plainly says what's going on here. And this is where the word zodiac comes from. The zo in the Dachshund. But it starts with to Susan, to turn. You know, that last movie ended with the days and nights allegiance. You know, and anus, the cures it has upon to crater. Of in and of on and of here coming as. And then it starts here with this and what, what on, and whenever. And so when is talking about time. And so when you're talking about time, when you say what on, well, with the hands, what on the 5, and the big hands, what's on the 6, it's 5:30, what on. And so you're looking at something that's turned to talking about the time, when. And what on to Susan, what on to turns to the Zoe. And like I say, this is in the Greek Bible when he says, and he named her Zoe because she was the mother of all life, protozoa, life, a living creature, a zoa. The zodiac, they'll say a zodiac means it comes from the zoo, as in the little animals, and the diac, they'll say comes from the circle, dia through, or do, and the circle, which is actually a cycle as, and they'll say it means the circle of little animals. And they'll say it's, the belt-like region. And that's actually where this word here, the zone, comes from. A belt is what that means. It's a girdle, it's a belt, which approximately 8 degrees north and south of the ecliptic, which includes the apparent path of the sun, moon, and visible planets. But that diac comes more from the Dachshund. The IA reads as a U, and the K and the S, they switch up even today, documents, the Dachshund. And they'll say, click on that number, it comes from the doxa, dignity, glory, honor, praise, worship, brightness. But here at Wikipedia, you'll see this doxa coming from a base word to accept. A dokio, okie dokie, okay, I accept. And accept means glory, but also opinion, estimation, a good repute, its reputation, an expectation, an opinion, a judgment, a belief, a magnificent, a brightness, a theophany, a manifestation of a deity to a person, a mandorla, a Vesco-Pisces shape, you see that surrounds the Virgin Mary, it surrounds the head on your dollar bill, things like that, or a reputation. And you see the exact word right here, the Dachshund, an accusative singular of doxa. But I believe it's more pronounced as the toxon. Having everything associated with that sign. The toxon. The documentation. And what on to Susan, to Zoa, to the zoo toxon, and the timing, and who the cherished when, to catch 'em coming, to catch coming, and the phi. The phi is to stands behind, defy is to go against, and the phi to stands behind, to throne. And to the zone the tie is into us. Everybody they're born in that zone. To zone, tie is toe. To carries toe. To say a nation. A nation we think of it as a piece of land, but it's a group of people that think that way, that nation, the Christian nation. They're spread all around the world. It's the way they think. It's not a place, and the zone ties to say a nation, a John on. A John, is the one that pays for that piece of time. That hooker, I'm seeing John right now. And after him comes the next John, that period of light. John, a period of light, a piece of time, to a John on. And if you wonder why I always refer to pimps and whores, it's because that was the first profession. The world's oldest profession is prostitution. And who started writing first? The people with all the money had to keep up with, the pimps and whores. They're the ones that invented this language. On the fifth day, and God said that bring forth in the waters and the reptiles living and the winged creatures and upon the earth and below the firmament of the heavens was so, and made whales and living creatures and reptiles according to their types, the winged creatures, the amphetamines. He said it was good and blessed them and made them to grow and multiply and fill the waters and seas. And the people that were writing this, they called it the day of the pimped. He pimped out the earth. Pimp your ride. The earth was pimped. And the zone ties to say a nation, a John on, a part of time on. And piso when day age. And a piso, you think of it, pesos is money, but it comes from an old word meaning weight. I have an antique postage scale, and it doesn't have numbers to tell you how many ounces anything is. It has pesos. It tells you how much it's going to cost to ship that. The lowest section was a half cent. We used to have a half cent back in the day. And it tells how many pennies, that it's going to cost to send that. Peso is weight, weighing, measuring weight. The weight when day age. This is like the age in manage. To manage means to handle. Man means hand, manus, the hands, and this is the L-E part of a handle, to handle, the L. And you can read it as of. There's many different ofs, and they have different meanings. But, the weight when the day of, will fall, the weight when the day of, they co-sit together. And they co-sit is czars, appointed over to rule that day. Present, present, what hereof. And the no peon isn't wearing a P, it's up in front. The no peon. And toe carries, it doesn't carry a P, he's up front, not behind. And to catch, coming of, coming, the camino, the road, the catch, coming of. The phi stands with the totter on of. And so people think that the king used to pass it down to his son, but he didn't. It was passed down to the daughter. And that's the daughter on of and the totter on of. And you see it in the Hebrew word for the throne. And I just found this Revelations in the Hebrew Bible. And I don't know who wrote it or when, but they understood the language. In Wikipedia they'll tell you that they don't understand what all this punctuation means. But whoever wrote this understood it and used it. But you see, this word, this is what's across from the Greek as the throne or the tauteron of. And here, is they sieve all, and then it reads backwards, and ask the kiss, all ASC, all ask the kiss. If you want to receive, you ask and you get. So everybody, they sieve all. Everybody who asks for the kiss, they get it. They sieve all. Ask a kiss in AV. Ask a kiss of is. And TH and the first vowel reads as a Y. They will, she. Is, they will. He will, me. Will, them. And we'll get their kiss. And so I believe that daughter, that's the moon. That's Susan, that's Lily. She goes around at night and spends the night with every one of them. Spends the night and moves on. But here, it's the no peon toe. Doesn't carry a peon. And out in front, the catch coming of. The phi with the totter on of. And proskine. Susan turns, face down, ass up, turns. Lily, Susan. Turns to Zonti. No more proskine, but turns to Zonti, horizontal. Doing the horizontal bop. Is to assay a nation, a John on. And the ball of Zen, and they will cast the ball of Zen. They say ball's ancient word for war. But the ball of Zen to sit, with a double S, S-I-T. The sit upon ofs. Of to be, the N followed by the E becomes a bet. Of to be, no peon, not behind. The daughter on of allegiance. And then this is the easiest part to read here. This is axis. The I-O becomes the E. And an axis is plural. We sit on one axis, but that's AXIS. But an AXES means you have an X and a Y axis. You have two axes. It's plural axis. And the axis they occur is what has common our Father, common. We have one. And so the axis they occur is what has common. That's why we have eclipses, lunar and solar eclipse, because they have a common axis at that time of the year. And have common. And lab in. So lab in, this is an astrolabe. You're talking about the stars. You don't say astrolabe. The lab is to take. They say is receive. Remember the first word up there, was to give. Susan gives. And the lab in takes. Coming from the star, the astron, and to lambing, to take. It means the star taker. The lab in, took, to take, to receive, to get hold of with the hand. In the laboratory, you're taking measurements. And after you get your take, you put a label on it. You give it a name. And they're trying to say that label comes from a narrow band strip of cloth. And what a big crock of shit they're trying to hide what the word lab means, where label comes from. A small ticket or sign. Give it a name, give it a number, give it a label. The astrolabos, the star taker. And you can see this word where they're getting this from, it's more as a lamb of N, the N followed by the E becomes a bet. and the lamb of in is the take. Axis, they occur as what has common. The lab in, then toxon, the doxon, and then the time in, and then the powerum in. And so the power comes from to name in. Name is the ancient Egyptian word for power. If you know the name, you take the power over that spirit. You can call upon that spirit, and that's what you do in your astrolabe. You shoot them, you dox them, you time them, and you to name in. That is vect. The vect is as vectors. Vect is speed and velocity, and the name, so you know where it's going to be, which way it's going. And to ponder, to think about something. Ponderous, he came from Homer, and he was the pimp. That word means pimp. He's the one who facilitates the affair between Troilus and Cressida. To go out pandering, to skin all. Pandaros, a pimp or a procurer. And then to name in, add is vict is as to ponder, the all to. And due to, IA, due to the dilemmas of is on. Due to the dilemmas of is on, you have a choice. The vict is this on. The vict, go out, is this on. So a dilemma is also a they'll come as of is on. And that's what you're doing, due to they'll come as of is on. Once you break out your lab, and shoot the commons, and lab in the docs in, and what a time in, and what to name in, the power in, that is a victor's as, to ponder, to give it some thought, and due to the tell come as of is on, to figure out what's going to come, because this is where the stars, this is where the suns, this is where the moon's at this time. And due to tell come as of is on, vict is this on, time to get out, vict. When the moon sits in this star and the sun sits in this star, it's time to get out of the valley, because the water's fixing to come up. The vict is this on. And what on to Susan, to Zodoxon, and time in who cherished when, to catch coming. The phi, stands with, is with you. The phi to throne, this O, sometimes it reads as an E, you see different marks on it. And to throne too, you see a different mark here. Throne to zone tie is to say a nation, a John on. A piso when day of, they co-sit is Azars. Present what here of, and this I reading with this E over here, becoming a U, and OV of no peon. And actually this I, reading with this O becomes a P. And it's the no P in, has no P in. And no P in toe, to carry the catch coming of, the phi, daughter on of. And proskine turns. And, proskine, they say that's face down, ass up, but this kind here, it comes from another place. The kind's on, they move, they started, they set off to initiate. But, as a you, it's a coons, it's the dog, proscoon, doggy style, and that'll damn sure initiate it. Stick your ass up and see what happens. Proscoon turns Susan to zone ties, to say a nation, a yawn, a long period of time, a John on, and of all of Zinto, all carries behind, and a double S, to sit a fawn of Socian, associated with that, association, and association be no peon, up in front, the daughter on of allegiance, the daughter on of allegiance. Axis they occur is what has common, labin, then doxin, and then timing, and then to name in, at his victis as, to panta, and do to tell come as of his on. The vict is this on. And I'm going to cut this off here, and I think I'm going to watch all 4 of these movies and see if I might want to just read the whole thing one time through like this. Good day.